car's headlights cut through the dense fog that hung low over the winding mountain road. Emma tightened her grip on the steering wheel as her GPS announced, "You have arrived at your destination." She pulled off onto a narrow gravel driveway that led to a secluded cabin nestled among towering pine trees. The cabin belonged to her late uncle, a reclusive man who'd left it to her in his will. Emma had never visited it before, but with her job's recent burnout and the desire to escape the city's chaos, she had decided a weekend here might be just what she needed. As she stepped out of the car, the air was crisp and silent. The cabin was a modest structure, its wooden exterior weathered by time. The windows reflected the faint moonlight, making it seem almost alive in the darkness. Emma shivered, not from the cold, but from a sense of unease she couldn't quite place. "It's just nerves," she told herself, hauling her backpack up the creaky porch steps. The key her uncle had hidden under a loose floorboard fit perfectly, and the door swung open with a groan. The inside was as rustic as she'd imagined. A small living room with a stone fireplace, a compact kitchen, and a staircase leading up to a loft bedroom. She found a flashlight and candles in a drawer as the cabin's generator refused to start. After lighting a few candles, Emma unpacked, made herself a sandwich, and settled into an armchair with a book. As the hours ticked by, the unease lingered. The forest beyond the windows was pitch black, and the faint creaks and groans of the old cabin set her nerves on edge. Around midnight, Emma decided to call it a night. She climbed the stairs to the loft, set her phone to charge on the nightstand, and slid under the heavy quilt. Exhaustion quickly took over, and she drifted into a restless sleep. A noise woke her. Emma bolted upright, her heart pounding. The sound, a soft scrape, came from downstairs. She strained her ears, listening intently. Nothing. "Probably a raccoon," she muttered, lying back down. But as soon as she did, the sound came again. This time it was followed by the distinct creak of a floorboard. Emma's blood ran cold. Someone was inside the cabin. She reached for her phone, but the screen was dark. The charger wasn't plugged in. Cursing under her breath, she slid out of bed as quietly as possible, her bare feet touching the icy floor. She grabbed the flashlight and her uncle's old hunting knife, which she'd noticed mounted on the wall earlier. Her mind raced. Who could it be? A burglar? A vagrant seeking shelter? She crept to the edge of the loft and peered down. The dim candlelight flickered, casting long shadows across the room. For a moment, she saw nothing out of the ordinary. Then she spotted it, a dark figure crouched near the fireplace. Emma's breath hitched. The figure was methodically rummaging through the drawers and cabinets. It moved with eerie precision, as if it knew exactly what it was looking for. She considered her options: confront the intruder, try to sneak out of the cabin, or barricade herself upstairs and wait for morning. The decision was made for her when the intruder suddenly turned and looked up. Even in the dim light, Emma could see their face was obscured by a mask. The figure froze, staring directly at her. "Who's there?" Emma demanded, her voice shaking but firm. The intruder said nothing. Instead, they began ascending the stairs, slowly and deliberately. Panic surged through Emma. She backed away, clutching the knife. "Stay back! I'll call the police!" The masked figure paused, tilting their head as if amused. Then they continued up the stairs. Emma's fight-or-flight instincts kicked in. She darted into the bathroom at the end of the loft and slammed the door shut. The flimsy lock clicked into place, but she knew it wouldn't hold for long. She scrambled to open the tiny window, but it was jammed. A heavy thud against the door made her jump. The intruder was trying to break in. Desperation took over. Emma grabbed the metal towel rack from the wall and braced herself. The door splintered as a booted foot kicked through it. As the masked figure stepped inside, Emma swung the towel rack with all her might. It struck their arm, and they stumbled back. She used the moment to dart past them and down the stairs, adrenaline propelling her forward. She didn't stop to grab her phone or keys. Bursting out of the cabin, she sprinted into the forest. The cold air stung her lungs, and the uneven ground threatened to trip her with every step. Behind her, she could hear heavy footsteps crunching through the underbrush. The forest seemed endless, the trees closing in around her. Emma's breath came in ragged gasps as she glanced over her shoulder. The figure was gaining on her. She spotted a fallen tree and ducked behind it, trying to quiet her breathing. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped. Emma crouched low, clutching the knife, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it would give her away. She could hear the intruder moving nearby, their labored breathing mingling with the rustling leaves. "I know you're out here," a voice finally called, distorted and unnervingly calm. It was the first time they'd spoken. "You can't hide forever." Emma's grip on the knife tightened. She knew she couldn't outrun them, not for long. She had to think. She scanned her surroundings, searching for anything she could use to her advantage. Her eyes landed on a jagged rock protruding from the ground nearby. As the footsteps approached her hiding spot, Emma sprang into action. She lunged forward, slashing wildly with the knife. The blade caught the intruder's arm, eliciting a grunt of pain. They swung at her with a heavy flashlight, grazing her shoulder and sending her stumbling back. Emma scrambled for the rock, grabbing it just as the intruder lunged at her. She swung it upward, connecting with their mask. The impact sent them reeling, and they fell to the ground, momentarily stunned. Wasting no time, Emma ran. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to put as much distance as possible between herself and the intruder. Eventually, she stumbled upon a narrow dirt road. Relief washed over her as she saw headlights approaching in the distance. She waved frantically, stepping into the road. The vehicle slowed and an older man rolled down the window. "You okay, miss? Please, someone's after me. They're back there." The man didn't hesitate. He opened the passenger door and Emma climbed in, trembling. As the truck sped away, she looked back at the forest, half expecting to see the masked figure emerge. But there was nothing, just the dark, silent trees. By the time the police arrived at the cabin, the intruder was gone. They found signs of a struggle, but no clues as to who the person was or what they wanted. The only thing missing was an old locked chest that had been hidden under the floorboards. A chest Emma hadn't even known existed. Back in the safety of her apartment, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Whoever the intruder was, they had been looking for something specific, and they'd succeeded. As she tried to sleep that night, a single question haunted her. What had been inside that chest, and why had someone been willing to kill for it? The answers, she feared, would find her sooner than she'd like.